Star Trek: The Next Generation was a show.
Star Trek: The Next Generation
everybody
was
I interacted with.
a show that I started watching when I was a really little kid.
Can you believe it's been 30 years?
Star Trek: The Next Generation first.
Star Trek: The Next Generation was my life as a kid. It was the escape from reality.
Welcome to Next Generation's First Generation, where Patrick Delmore and Sasha Shouties take a look back into their favorite childhood show, Star Trek: The Next Generation. This is where we attempt to reconcile how we felt as children watching the show and looking back as old farts now in our late 30s, almost 40s. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Kentley Studios calling. How are things down there in Next Gen, First Gen South?
Oh yeah, we're doing okay down here. This is obviously we're doing this over Skype because of the whole COVID lockdown situation. So what's our episode today?
Well, we are wrapping up Season 3 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which is the first part of Best of Both Worlds. Probably acknowledged as one of the greatest Star Trek episodes ever. Like we said, this is the first time we've recorded not in the same room before. So I am on the DVD at my couch at home, and I believe Sasha is probably watching on his computer. And we had hoped to have my dad on this episode, because I remember watching this with him, going to my uncle's house afterwards, and my uncle saying, you know, that he definitively was sure that Picard was not coming back, that there was no way to save Picard.
Well, I think that was the intention of the original director of the show, or not director, the writer of this episode, is that he assumed this was going to be his last episode on the show, and so he just set it up a situation hoping someone else would figure it out.
And they do many, many, many good things in this storyline, and I'm excited to get into it. I've got my DVD paused 1 second in if you're ready.
Okay, folks, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to queue up your favorite viewing device. We are watching this on the Netflix version. We're going to give you the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Okay. Here is the Enterprise at Jorat 4. Responding to a distress signal. Unfortunately, they are going to discover that they are too late. Happily, we have O'Brien at the controls, and the gang is about to go down to the planet. Now, the two big things I remember picking up from this episode when I was 8, one was I didn't get what they meant by big chair when they're talking about Riker moving on to being a captain. I didn't understand why they called it a big chair. Because Picard doesn't sit, at least that I noticed, in a chair that's any bigger than anybody else on the Enterprise.
It was the figurative responsibilities.
Yeah. But when I would talk to my dad about the episode, I would, just refer to it as, is Riker going to sit in the big chair?
So we've got Ron Jones wrote the score for this, and he always does a really good job at the spooky episodes.
Yep, he won an Emmy for this, and then he got fired.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow, what a beautiful matte painting.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't think enough credit goes out to the people who do the matte paintings for this show.
As a really quick teaser for this one, the city that they were beamed down to is gone.
Just scooped out. If you've ever been to a strip mine, that's kind of what it looks like. It's just a big scoop of earth and nothing much left. Well, let's see here. This is Best of Both Worlds Part 1, and this was directed by Cliff Boyle, written by Michael Piller, Michelle Piller, sorry.
It's Michael Piller.
It's Michael? Oh, boy.
Rick Berman and Michael Piller were the two guys. I always say Michelle Fassbender, so...
I always get mixed up with Michael and Michelle spelling it and saying it. It's like, I don't know there's some kind of mental block there.
Well, in France, it would be Michelle.
Okay, there you go. So Ron Jones, of course, Marvin Rush did the cinematography. And we have, of course, this is a Whoopi episode, and her presence is always a good presence on this show.
Yep.
And let's see here. What was really interesting about this episode, and So we hear that the guy who wrote this episode didn't expect to come back to write the finale, basically the solution part 2. So it kind of makes me wonder what was in his mind when he was setting all this stuff up. Was he kind of hoping to burn the house down as he's walking away, and someone else can figure this out, or?
Well, he gives Ryker and Troy the best moment on the series that they've ever had. Troy probably the best moment she's ever had. I don't think Troy is ever as good as this ever again, as far as her function as a lieutenant commander and as a ship's counselor. I was rewatching the scene between Ryker and her yesterday, and they're just incredibly good together. I love this. Is a little bit too on the nose. We knew it was coming, but we thought we had time.
Here's our good friend George Murdoch as Admiral J.P. Hanson. And Shelby, they did a really good job casting her as Shelby. She reminds me of what a young female Riker would be like.
Yeah. And we'll see her again in Total Recall.
Really?
It was funny. I was watching that for our planned commentary. She's one of the technicians.
Her name is Elizabeth Dehaney, I believe.
And I was pointing it out to Matt. I'm like, there's Commander Shelby. And he's like, she's wearing a fake nose. I'm like, no, she's just got glasses on. She has a pretty big nose. If you look at her profile. All they did was, have her hair back really tight and have her in silly glasses. So the poker game here is set up. And this is what we've seen them play poker before, but this is where they say, poker is kind of the soul of friendship on the friendship and family on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
They offer it to the Admiral first, then they offer it to Shelby. And this one I will give, I said we weren't going to mention Picard. I will give the Picard TV show this. Picard in the future is called JL by his subordinates. And he calls this Admiral JP.
Oh, there you go.
So there was a little bit of a precedent set for that for the people that are like, I don't believe that anybody would call Jean-Luc Picard JL in the future. Well, they do. Well, I mean, he did it with admirals that he worked with, because it's called them by their initials. So we're discovering that Riker has now been offered another captaincy. The second we've heard about on the show, but the third canonically that has happened, to take over the Melbourne. And in the real Navy, his career would be over at this point. You can't turn down a captaincy that many times.
Yeah, you can't stay with... You go where you're sent. You don't stay where it's comfortable.
They joked about that with Wesley a couple episodes ago when he got his field promotion. That, it was would be very unlikely he'd be sent back to the Enterprise if he went to Starfleet Academy. But the Enterprise is a special ship. I mean, it's ridiculous, but they work together so well because they're a family.
Oh, it's the good old boys network. If you're the outside looking in, it's the good old boys network. If you're the inside looking out, it's a family. Oh, this is where Shelby kind of drops it on Riker. It's like
that she's going for his job.
That's right. Oh, by the way, I heard you're leaving, and I'm very interested in your position. And he's just like, wait a minute, I haven't heard anything about this.
But the idea is it wouldn't have been Picard as captain and Shelby as commander. It would have been Picard taken by the Borg, not coming back. Riker is now captain of the Enterprise, and Shelby is his first officer. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Riker and Shelby could get along, to tell you the truth.
No, that's the thing. And I think it would have created a really fascinating dynamic between Shelby and Geordi.
Oh, yeah.
Because Data wouldn't care. Data would be fine with remaining second officer, but Geordi holding the same rank as Data and having commanded the Enterprise previously, he should be
He should
the
be
guy to take Riker's place.
That's right. I hadn't even thought about that.
And their personalities would not gel well together, Shelby and Geordi. And we're going to see later in this episode, Geordi has had to take, and we've mentioned it before, it happens more off camera than on, but he's had to take 1.5 miles of crap from Commander Riker. Because if he happens to walk in on Riker when Riker's upset about something, Riker's going to take it out on Geordi.
There's our poker game again, as you say. What now? Why did they choose poker out of all the games? I've noticed there's some themes like poker, baseball, and a couple other things that Star Trek just kind of always reintroduces the same theme over and over and over again.
Maybe poker's easy to film.
Yeah.
That's why they have World Series of Poker on TV and stuff.
And it's an easy, quick game you can do in your cabin, too.
Yeah. I like we can see Riker's trombone over his shoulder.
Yeah, there it is. Look at that. Oh, so here's the showdown between Shelby and Ryker.
Yep.
Shelby called his bluff.
And I love that Wesley thinks that this is about him.
No.
Just say it. Yep.
I'm so stupid.
Nobody's gonna remember what you did in that game, Wesley.
There's another day at work for O'Brien.
Mm-hmm. I need to remember the name of the cartoonist who does Chief O'Brien at work. Credit them for entertaining us so much. Oh, and so Data and Shelby have already gone down to the planet.
Yep.
And
he's not going to be happy about this at all.
No, he's not. And Geordi's been where Shelby's been before. He's going to go up to Data and be like, "Yeah, Shelby erred. She really messed up.
She didn't follow social protocol, and really what she did was she stole the light from Riker, and that's why he's angry.
Stole the light and didn't stroke his beard.
Yep. Ooh. I'd like to have a word with you, please. And she's got this, oh man, this guy's going to waste my time, but I'll pay attention to him because he's the CO.
Right. It's like we may run into the Melbourne later on and he'll be the captain and he'll want to, I might have to talk to him and he doesn't want to be it. I don't want to have him be in a mood when I do.
It's really too bad that Data doesn't really do any more literal translations anymore going forward. Like the early bird gets the worm. He goes, wait a minute, I don't detect any birds or worms here.
Mm-hmm.
I think they even joke about that in the final episode.
When they go back, yeah.
Let's burn the midnight oil. He goes, I would not recommend lighting a petroleum-based substance on board the ship or something like that. So there we go. Riker and Shelby has been put in her place, and she's now saying, well, let's get on to the report. It is the Borg. So this has huge ramifications because now we are formally introducing the longtime villain of the Federation. And even watching this as a child, I felt as if they're moving way too slow for an enemy that's too powerful.
Well, they've been working really hard behind the scenes, but they weren't working fast enough. Shelby was in charge of setting up the fight with the Borg. They've been developing all these weapons. They just were not ready to put them into use yet. So Picard's going to give Riker his little come to Jesus moment. That I think that, you know, from where Picard's at, he would rather. I think he would rather Riker stay. If he had his druthers, Riker would stay.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't think that's any good for Riker.
Well, Picard is very much interested in his career, not what's good for himself.
Yeah.
Right? So when you look at leadership, Riker says a very interesting thing. He says that, I think she needs a lot of supervision because she takes risks. So that's a trust statement. He says, I don't trust her to do the right thing, is what I'm hearing. And it's really ironic because Riker, before this episode, was known to be a ridiculous risk taker. and Picard just kind of went with the punches and guided him where he needed to go, but he didn't really insert himself too much in Riker's decisions. So the role of a first officer would be you see a situation and you measure the risk and you take action. And so
I love this conversation here so much, but keep going.
Mm-hmm. So now that Riker is in a position where he has to learn how to trust other people's actions on risk, I mean, in a lot of ways, he has matured and he is ready to be captain because he's paying attention to what Shelby is doing. So it's a subordinate, and he's like, I don't know if this is the right thing or not. So, and now he's even talking about it. It's like full of drive, full of ambition, impatient, taking risks. It was Riker is really realizing with Troy here, he's grown up.
He hasn't, though.
You don't think so?
No, I really don't. I don't think Riker has learned anything, and I don't think that he ever does. I don't think there's a big difference between Riker season 1 and this Riker.
I think the only thing that's different is that his energy level's gone down. He's still pretty angry. He's not as happy. I remember season 1 Riker smiling a lot more and kind of being coy.
But Troy has pointed out that, he is comfortable. He is comfortable in his role. And that was sort of what happened the first time we saw him get offered his own command. The episode with his dad.
Right.
Is that it was like dad left, and he had the moment with Worf where he's like, I can be to Worf what my dad never was to me. I'm going to stay and help Worf. I'm going to help mold Worf. I'm not going to leave him. Worf was really worried about me leaving, and I had to go through that, and I don't think it made me a better person to have that happen to me. So I'm staying. The Enterprise needs me.
Well, here, I mean, there's really no reason for him to move along. In fact, it seems really natural that he should leave. But of course, then we would be without a major actor in the program.
If you look at the bigger picture and go, the Melbourne needs a good captain, and obviously they're not looking at Geordi because Geordi's not in the running to do that yet. He's only a lieutenant commander, not a commander.
Right.
But from the logs and stuff that are coming through from Picard, they're like, no, the best thing to do with Riker is give him his own ship, get as good of reports from the Melbourne as we get from the Enterprise.
So here's another showdown between Riker and Shelby. Shelby wants to keep working. Riker says, no, you need a full night's rest before we can take care of this. And it's really interesting that Riker even kind of gives the rest of the crew in the briefing there just the sideways look like, oh man, this person, can you believe her?
And that's the thing, is that if he was a good leader or a good captain, he would have presented it as, here's who's been on shift this long. Every one of them is going off shift, and these other people are taking over. I'm not singling you out in front of these people. I am making sure that because you are in the military, everybody is being treated the same.
Yeah, and then
you're going to see it.
And just using that head nod really undercuts any authority that Shelby might have if people take Riker a little too seriously.
But his guys are used to that. That's why he belongs on the Enterprise.
So here is JP having a briefing. I actually missed that briefing. Were they saying that they found the cube or they saw a cube coming in?
No, just that they don't have any. They can't get I want to say they can't get the fleet to them for quite a bit of time.
Oh, so they need to stall.
They're going to have to hold it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the idea here where they're kind of coming up with a mega weapon. I think this is where Geordi actually first comes up with the deflector dish idea. There's Picard looking sad.
Yeah.
So he's walking around. He's nervous. We don't really see Picard pacing all that much. This is a new kind of Picard.
Certainly not on the bridge. It'd be more of a ready room thing.
And here we go. There's the pentultimate. Is that right? Pentultimate phrase.
Pentultimate.
Where he says, Contact Starfleet Command. We have engaged the Borg. So it's coming in. Everybody's kind of look like they're bracing for a wave that's about to hit the ship.
Yeah, and that's really that's what's going on too.
They're tense.
I bet Crusher had a hard time not asking Picard to take Wesley off the front lines for this.
Well, he's wearing a red uniform now. He's one of everybody else.
He's still just an ensign.
Yeah, but there are a lot of ensigns on a ship.
Yeah. And they also didn't evacuate the families either, which is kind of surprising. After the Borg, sliced into the ship last time. And
Right. Maybe they didn't have time. I think it's very telling that they're asking, hey, is this the same ship? Well, they say it's the same design. But at the same time, you can have two Galaxy-class vessels that look identical. That doesn't mean that it's going to be the same ship that you have encountered. And there's the Borg giving their demands. We are the Canadian Borg. We would like it if you please politely join us.
But they're asking Picard to surrender himself.
Well, no, I don't think they actually asked for him personally.
Yes, they did.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They'll drop your shields and beam aboard our ship.
Well, that's right.
Which he would have done. This is a big change. In Season 1, to spare the Enterprise, boom, he would have gone right over.
Yep.
Wouldn't have consulted with his crew at all. He would have been, Commander Riker, you're in charge. Bye-bye. And get away from here as fast as you possibly can.
Well, even the current Picard, I think, would do that too, because he's more about self over, the needs of the many thing. Well,
except that he knows that the needs of the many need him to be on the ship still. Riker and Shelby will just tear each other apart like two cats in a bag.
Some more action shots. It's amazing how much drama is woven into an action sequence just by saying the shields are being drained, or they show some person frantically pushing buttons so they don't have to do an expensive special effects shot. But that was kind of the neat thing that we just saw right there. The Enterprise is firing all phasers or all torpedoes at the same time, which just really, really excited me as a little kid. I don't think I could contain myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great.
Well, we're 3 to 4 years away from the first computer action film where typing fast became a big deal. Now we're going to see The Hunt for Red October comes out this year, which is very similar to this because just like Wrath of Khan is its naval submarine warfare.
Mm-hmm.
So lots to compare.
So this is where Shelby figures out the random frequency fluctuations takes out their technology. I almost would want to watch Q watching this encounter. Yeehaw! Yippee-ki-yay!
Q is always watching. I just don't like the idea that Q is actually a safety net for Picard, that he'll step in and fix it if things don't go right, which he doesn't here. I mean, he's going to let Picard get assimilated.
Well, Q's only been a safety net for Picard when there's a lesson to be learned.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Q is a good example of someone who does not follow the Prime Directive.
No.
So they are going into a nebula to
Again, like
hide.
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. This nebula right here, I think, was borrowed from the motion picture. And they frequently reuse that nebula, and they just will do
from
different...
the motion picture and not from Wrath of Khan, because it looks like it's from Star Trek 2.
Well, I do know, you could be right. I do know that they borrow a lot of movie footage and recolor it and change the orientation of the film to basically have cheap special effects. And it looks pretty good.
Now, I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever said this. The way that an airplane looks, at night in the sky, the lights that it uses, to me as a little kid, it looks just like the Enterprise is flying up there, like the Enterprise D is up there.
Oh yeah, I could believe
With
that.
the with the two red on the sides and the blue in the middle.
Yep.
This is some gorgeous model work. The color of the ship and the nebula.
And the fog effect too.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to know how they did that. So they're reviewing the play-by-play footage here.
And again, interesting that they choose to put Wesley in this meeting.
He's part of the family.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
Well, so I know that Data is a department head who sits at the con there. Now, would Wesley be a department head as well?
He's been put in charge of teams. No. He's an ensign, which is the lowest ranking member on board ship. He was previously an acting ensign. Now he's an actual.
Right. No responsibilities really that we know of.
Other than to do what he's told and learn.
It's unusual though that they have this briefing without Picard. I just realized he wasn't there until Riker said, "I'm going to go inform the captain." I think it's to set up this conflict of decision right here. Shelby wants to separate the saucer section to use the saucer section as a decoy. And Riker says, no, I think that's a bad idea. Which will set up a future scene where she just goes to the captain anyway and just completely circumvents Riker.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes into the whole chain of command thing. And I'll tell you one thing, if you've ever been in a workplace where they respect the chain of command, it is like the ultimate sin to go above your boss.
Oh, yeah.
And there she is. It's like, the look on his face is like, oh, if my eyes could shoot lasers.
Yeah, he's like, no, I know. It's like, I know what I'm saying. I know how you're going to react. This is kind of a test for you not to yell at to yell at me and yell at her.
So Picard's got to really manage this conflict, just by saying, "Well, we need to take more risks in this situation."
Yep.
And Shelby definitely brought the risk.
And if I was Riker, all I would have said to her was, "Your plan was considered as a fallback situation to begin with. I didn't need you to take it to the captain that way."
This is a really interesting conversation here. So Riker's calling Shelby out right now. If anything, this episode is more a Riker episode than anything else.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best Riker episodes.
I didn't even realize it. It's just, again, the more I see him do his job, the more I question how good of a leader he really is.
No, I think we've seen that throughout this whole thing. Is that the if this was a real ship and not a ship on a TV show, the person that would make the most sense for it to be commander, to be first officer, is Geordi.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the thing: on Voyager, we had a very low key, doesn't get excited about anything, first officer on Voyager, Chakotay,
mm-hmm.
and it was boring.
Yeah. Well, Chakotay did his job, and he did it quietly. Oh,
Yeah.
There's that beautiful fog effect again with the Enterprise blocking a backlight. Man, oh man.
That would have been an interesting turn of events if Geordi had joined the Maquis.
Oh, that would have been neat. Yeah, I agree. Well, he doesn't have too much of an opinion of anything, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he does.
He's more interested in the right thing and the wrong thing on a personal relationship level, not so much on a political level. I've actually never seen him say, yeah, that's right or that's wrong for an entire system or an entire culture. Oh, there's Guinan.
Yep.
Oh, they're going to have the heart-to-heart moment
She's
here.
cleared 10 forward, hiding out in here.
So, this is where Picard talks about the tradition of touring a ship before a battle. And the question is, well, maybe for a hopeless battle. And he's like, not necessarily. There have been this battle and that battle where the captain came out victorious.
I think that Guinan emptied out 10 forward by design.
Yeah.
Like she gave out. She's probably keeping an eye on where Picard is on the ship. She probably handed out some holodeck tokens, sent a few people that were there off, because everybody would be on shifts and would be very nervous. So 10 forward normally would always have a bunch of. While this was going on, would always have all the off-duty officers would be there. Really stocking up and being like, okay, it's coming.
That's not the impression I get looking at how empty this set is. If it's just before a battle, everybody's going to be working as hard as they can at their stations to get ready for battle, so making modifications to this or that. So Guinan is left with nothing to do but to hang out in 10 forward. And Picard happens to stroll in, and they're having a heart-to-heart talk about the inevitable. When I was thinking about this conversation between Picard and Guinan last night, and I think Picard is coming to terms with his own death.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to have to face this as a page in history. It's going to happen. And for a brief moment, he can remove himself and have a balcony view of the situation, saying, yes, I'm going to enter this situation and I might die. But then to be violently pulled back into the situation where you actually do have to make the decision and watch the consequences of your decision are two completely different things. And so now that the Borg cube is kind of firing these charges into the cloud to, I guess you say, flush the quail more or less, to get the Enterprise to get moving. I don't know. If you've ever contemplated your own mortality and then had to participate in it, the energy levels are completely different.
Yeah, not unlike living through a plague.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's actually the scary part about this, is that a lot of people can stay home, and then you have healthcare workers who can't stay home. They have to face this every day.
Yeah.
Wow. Here the Enterprise is frantically firing and basically being desperate to flee. Oh, hey, look, the Borg are beamed onto the ship.
This poor actor, when he comes onto the ship, he's got this prop that's just weighing him down.
He kind of looks like Hugh, actually.
They all look like Hugh. It's like every baby looks like Winston Churchill. One Borg looks like another Borg.
So, why is it that the shield could stop a phaser, but Riker could actually physically touch the Borg?
Different attack.
Different attack?
Remember, they don't expect this. They expect you to attack them the same way every time.
So they're all beamed out. They stole the captain. So they got what they originally asked for. Oh, there's Worf. I love this. He runs. Other times you've seen him leap over that little.
And we saw him leap it this time. This is the thing. It's like it would only have to happen once to be like, people are leaping over that all the time. Maybe we just shouldn't have it. Just keep the part that has controls on it.
So there's good old O'Brien chiming in saying technical things won't work. You're not getting them back. So where did they get the name Terran for humans? Is that a Star Trek thing? Or does that come from somewhere else?
It's Earth, terra firma.
Could be.
Terran if you're from Earth.
Yeah. So there's Picard just calmly walking through a leisurely stroll down Borg Avenue. Now, if they tried to introduce the Borg Queen here, I don't think it would have taken well.
No, there was never any plans for a Borg Queen. In the Picard biography and in First Contact, they say that Picard, when he was connected to the collective, did become aware of a queen. But he just didn't ever tell anybody.
I think it was poor writing to introduce a queen, to tell you the truth. It would have been much more mysterious if the Borg just maintained this hive mentality.
Well, I think the queen idea came out of... Sorry, I've got a yawn coming on. The queen came out of the idea that the Next Generation films are action adventures. The TV show is more like watching a game of chess. It's how do people work together to solve a problem. The movies are all just hit it with a hammer.
Right.
So the Borg Queen idea also comes from Aliens had great success a couple years before. Not even, I want to say there are 8 years between Aliens and First Contact.
Yeah, First Contact. Was that where we first saw the Queen? First Contact?
Yes. And then she became a regular thing on Voyager.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time the Borg came back, their teeth got a little bit less sharp.
That's true. We've always seemed to find another way to remodulate. That's actually something that really turned me off to the Voyager series. They were always remodulating something, and they always gave them the advantage, and that advantage almost seemed infinite. It just, the more times you said it, the more effective it was, and it started to become unbelievable.
A great look from Shelby as Troy takes Riker down a peg. Hey, you're staying on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Well, Riker wants to do his job, and that's not his job anymore.
Yeah.
Riker doesn't like change.
Nope.
No, Troy's a really good counterweight to Riker on this show.
So, I'm slowly reading the book, Imzadi. Mm-hmm. And they have a very out-of-character part of that book, at least to me, where Riker... it takes place in an alternate timeline where Troy has died. Oh. And Riker and Wesley are talking about her. And Riker's kind of teasing him. It's like, I know you thought she was hot. Wesley starts talking about what outfits he thought Troy looked good in.
Ugh.
That's like, no. I can't imagine they would ever have that conversation.
Wow. That sounds like a fanfic for sure.
Well, this is the same writer that thought that in season 2 of the show, Picard would carry Wesley to bed and tuck him in after a hard day.
So now we're getting back into the plot. We finally got over the Shelby Ryker business. I could have swear they spent about 25 minutes on their relationship alone.
Which I didn't mind. I actually liked that. I think it serves Riker really well.
Oh yeah.
Look at the beak on this lady. Sorry.
So you say right now she's not wearing a fake nose.
No.
It was in the other film.
Yeah, it was in Total Recall. Matt thought she had a fake nose. And I was like, no, she's just got her hair framed in a certain way that
everybody's walking around calmly. This would scare the hoobie hobbies out of me. Just to walk around. It should have
when I was a kid, but it didn't really do it for me.
Well, at any moment, they could reach out and just grab them.
Yep, but they won't. I mean, that's the whole idea. It's The tiger is docile right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is actually similar to how bees operate. Bees will actually let other insects into their hive, but they do respond after a while, and usually they'll do things like they'll raise the temperature of the hive to kind of push out the invading insect, or they'll directly attack it. Bees actually have a couple of defense mechanisms, not so unlike the Borg, to tell you the truth. Even you can take apart an entire frame of a hive, and the bees aren't really going to care what you do because you're not directly messing with them. So in that context, it makes a lot of sense why our crew here is allowed to just walk around the Borg ship with a free hand, because they're not doing anything. They're not messing with them, and they're not a threat. Why should we waste the resources on something that's, percentage base is completely, it's meaningless.
We're moving to intercept Wolf 359. We'll make our stand there. Famous last words.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's where the angry Cisco is born.
Yeah.
Now, JP is... Now, I like JP here because our Admiral... He's really quick to say, hey, this guy was my friend too, but he's dead. You have to let him go. You cannot proceed in thinking that he's alive if you're going to be successful with your mission.
The baby Borg, very disturbing.
Oh, no, this one is not the baby Borg.
Oh,
that was in the first episode. Here they find Picard's dry cleaning. No one has a claim slip. Statistically, that's really amazing. They beamed down to just the right spot with how big that ship is that they hit. It's kind of like I'm going to transport myself to Seattle so I can meet Patrick at a specific Starbucks, and I just happen to be like a block away. Out of all the places in Seattle I could beam into, and these things are huge. I would have to say what. Oh, man, they can hold something like about 30,000 Borg or something like that.
Looking at these nodes here, keep thinking, red light, green light, green light.
Well, if you look
Kaboom!
It's all HVAC on the ceiling. Yeah. But they did kind of up the technology from the first shot, or from the first episode we see these guys in.
Yeah.
And they're shooting, they're pissing off the Borg. They're basically being the what do we call them? The mosquitoes.
Yep. But they don't have the uniformity of look that the Borg will later have. I love that they're just gluing pieces of crud to these actors, making it, just spray painting it black.
Well, I think the assumption is that each Borg is going to their base species is going to need one or two pieces of special equipment to serve the same function. Like, for example, this guy may have been assimilated, he only has one eye. Or they only need a certain percentage of Borg with an infrared sensor in their eye or something like that. But you're right, I bet you it was a lot of fun to create individual Borg. I can't talk now. If you were sitting there in the costume department saying, okay, I've got to come up with 30 original-looking Borg. All right, let's bring out the parts from the garage and see what we can get. Oh.
That last guy Data shot kind of reacted like woo 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 woo.
Yep, Data looked a little angry there.
Yeah, the shields they have on them are very similar to the shields they have in Dune, the David Lynch Dune. Mm-hmm. Bum bum bum.
And there's our
Steve. That light just hits you right in the face.
Picard looks more like Steve Jobs right there with the black shirt.
Yeah.
That's a great bodysuit.
Like, Captain, is that inside you? No, I'm just wearing it. It's okay, Mr. Wolf.
So they found a defense against the I'm going to touch you attack. Picard just bounced, or not Picard, Worf just bounced right off of Picard's personal shield. It's pretty scary, though, with the laser pointing right in the camera.
He's got a good look when Worf... I love the three different colors standing shoulder to shoulder. Worf, when he comes back, looks like he just busted a fart in that turbo lift. Is super embarrassed.
Yeah. That's the closest I think you'll ever hear him cry when he says, he is a Borg.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to that, it's like, you think he shed a little tear.
Yeah. That's what it is. He had his primal scream just at the ladies and Data. And they were like, okay, Worf, good enough. But it's a cultural thing. Yeah, it's cultural. We get it.
Oh,
you
here we go.
You also do it when you stub your toe.
That's what I do in the bathroom sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're figuring it out. So Shelby wants to rescue Picard, and Riker's like, nope, we don't have time. We have to fire. Oh, we're coming up to the cliffhanger. I don't want it to end.
It's got a great cliffhanger, though.
This almost reminds me of like a duel at noon here, where you have the people surrounding the edges of the alley or of the street, and Picard and Riker are staring each other down, and then they kind of throw taunts at each other.
So if your life as it has been from this point is over, ain't that the truth?
That's a double entendre.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking really freaked out.
Yeah. Oh, so good. You got to play that music on the podcast. They play at the end of this. The bum bum bum, bum bum bum.
Oh
bum.
Yes. Ah, tingly, man. I've got goosey bumps.
And so there I am at 8, being told, by all the adults in my life, Picard is dead.
Yeah.
Not getting him back. Not going to happen.
Yeah. I would definitely say that's the case. Wow, man. I don't know what to say. That's only the first half of 2 really good episodes.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about both, but I know that there's a big delay between the first and the second. So I'm just going to cover my review for the first half. This is really a Riker episode. It's showing how he is growing up from a young rabble-rouser to the mature adult that he should be. And he's really reluctant to do so, and I don't think it really kicks in. He doesn't realize this until he talks to the Admiral JP, where JP says, look, you have to accept that he's dead. And he just realized, and then the part where Troy says, well, you need to be on the bridge now as well. That, if anything, that's the takeaway, is that Riker's not a little kid anymore. And yes, I know that it's about Picard getting kidnapped and there's a big threat to the Federation, but in disguise, this is really just, it's a Riker episode. For that, I'll probably, I will give this maybe about, I actually would say about 5 out of 5 Borg drones.
Yeah, I give it the same. It gives me goosebumps. I have made it a point not to rewatch the second part until we were able to talk about it. But yeah, it's going to be 14 weeks between the 2 airings.
Okay.
So a lot of time to think it over. And I mean, it's just so weird because it's like, we have no idea what kind of a spot the world is going to be in for that return.
There's an irony there, because when this comes out in June, and then the release of the second episode is going to be in September, would you say?
Yeah.
And we'll probably record this. We'll probably record the second part of this in August.
Weeks, yeah.
August or July, or maybe even in a couple of weeks. Who knows what the world's going to look like by the time you listen to this. So right now it is March 29th, so holy smokes. So just as the Borg are invading the Federation, we are dealing with this really bonkers, weird, alternate universe COVID-19 situation. So with that, we'd like to say be safe and have a wonderful day.
Why am I interviewing you guys?
So you're the guest.
So Sasha, what's this Star Trek
Hi,
Next
I'm the
Generation?
guest.
So Sasha, what is Star Trek Next Generation?
Seek us out at Next Generation's First Generation at iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Music credits include Electric Car by Poddington Bear, Broke for Free, As Colorful as Ever, Glass Android by Lee Rosevere, Drops of H2O by Jay Lang. Audio engineering by Sasha Shouties. Chief Meme Maker and episode cover credit goes to Matthew Kirschner. Logo and graphic art design credit goes to David Clawwitter. And special thanks to Patrick Delmore for working with other podcasts to make sure the good word gets out.
Do you have a podcast that you think people should be listening to? Send us your promos and we'll play them on the show. If you'd like to email the show, you can email us at nextgenfirstgenpod@gmail.com. I've been Patrick Delmore.
And this is Sasha Shouties. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful day.
Good night.
Hey folks, we got some spoilers coming up with the conversation between Pat and I about the ending of the Picard series, Season 1. This is also a quick reminder that you can tune into Matt and Pat's show called A View from the Bridge, which will go into detail about how the Picard series progressed. Enjoy!
Yes. So did you see the end of Picard?
Oh my gosh, yes. I don't know what to think about it. Picard is an android, kind of dumb.
We're going to cover it, Matt and I, on our show.
I didn't understand why they had to kill Data.
He was already dead.
Yeah, and they had to kill him a second time. It was a little weird.
Yeah, and Data's not the person that Picard needs to say that he loves you, that he loves them too.
Did you notice they had a CGI Picard there at the very last moment where he was kind of I think that was CGI. He was tucking Data in as he was laying down.
Oh yeah. That I thought that was going to be somebody other than Picard. I really didn't get why. Because I mean, Data's response to it was correct. It was like, does it change anything that I love you? And Data's like, not in the way that you would get it, but kinda.